Namaste, everyone. Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consulting, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Transformation Q&A Thursday on Friday. We're a day behind, but we're catching up and we'll be even today. So before we begin, let us invoke. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Koksui, Lord Mahaguru Jameling, the Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Lord Ganesh, to Saraswati, to Holy Master Count Saint Germain, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, the angels of intelligence, to our divine selves, our higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, divine love, divine power, for your help, guidance, and protection, for your soothing, healing energies. We thank you, Lord God. We thank you all with gratitude, respect, and love. So be it, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to another Transformation Q&A Thursday on this Friday. Today is our very last full day in Honolulu, Hawaii. We'll be leaving tomorrow morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And a beautiful 18-hour travel time from Honolulu to Puerto Rico. And my lungs, my throat, everything's been really heavy, congested. I had to do my COVID PCR test yesterday, came out negative, which is exciting, but my lungs are still recovering from COVID, and it just fluctuates. Some days, great, great strength in the lungs, no problems. And then other days, just heavy, almost like having emphysema. I haven't had emphysema, but my father had emphysema for many, many years in his left lung. How my father lived as long as he lived still amazes me. How he either didn't die early or wasn't decrepit for 20 years is beyond me. But so I'm doing my best to work through this. The congestion in my lungs, it comes and it goes. There's no known factor as to why they're happening. As Grandmaster Choa Koksui would say, there's always a cause, but we may not know what the cause is. The only thing that has no cause is God. God is known as the causeless cause. So working through it, guys. And the plan is to go to a second waterfall today in the North Shore of Oahu, go to a nude beach. Look, I'm here. I saw it. If it's open, great. If it's not, right? Experience. Live an exciting life, as Master Choa would say. So we'll see what's going on with that. But I want to connect with you guys. I want to get this in the, at least on the Facebook page, and then we'll upload all the videos to the membership site within the next couple of days, which should take a couple hours or so. And let's get into the questions. The questions were kind of not all over the place. The questions were good, but I think we're going to be able to cover a lot of ground. So the reason I'm sitting in a different place in the Airbnb is because of cell phone charging. Apparently the smart car that I rented from Turo. So Turo is where people can rent out their own cars. The guy's like literally right here up the street. So I rented out from him, and he goes, yeah, if you need to charge your phone, I have this auxiliary cable and yada, yada, yada. And I plugged the cable in, plugged my phone in, no charge. And so not that it's a big deal if you get lost, because basically from one end of the island to the other end of the island takes a maximum of an hour and 30 minutes. And there's like 4 highways throughout the island. So it's almost impossible to get lost. But I want to do some other filming and stuff like that. So I want to make sure I have a full charge here before I leave. So that's why that's why we're in a different spot and the phone is charging. Okay. Think about the time will come. We'll either, have the phones be self-charging or the batteries will last for like months or something like that. We can dream, right? So kind of a weird angle. So the first question Can you visualize blessing others and the earth without physically lifting your hands like we do during meditation? So you guys know we do the twin hearts meditation, right? So we imagine a little earth in front of us. We raise our hands in blessing position. Yes. And then we bless the earth through the heart, down the arms, out the hands, then from the crown, down the arms, out the hands, and then simultaneously the heart and the crown, down the arms, out the hands to the earth in front of you. So the question is, can you do all this like this? Yes, but I wouldn't recommend it I really wouldn't recommend it, period. There's a lot that can be said. We're not going to say it all. I don't know it all. I know parts of it, right? But basically, you guys have heard of feng shui, and I'm pretty sure they're connected, these principles. So you've heard of feng shui, right? And so feng shui is basically how energy flows in and out of an environment, right? And certain directions provide certain energies. So if you face north, your chakra system is getting a different kind of energy versus if you face south, if you face northeast, versus if you face west, northwest, etc. Right? The 8 different directions. So when you face those directions, your energy body is getting influenced by a certain kind of prana or energy. So people go, well, if I can't face that direction, can I just imagine or visualize that I'm facing that direction? You can, but the challenge is it requires a lot of will. So can you bless the earth with your hands down and have a similar effect, right? Have a similar effect than raising your hands. Yes, but now you're using all this will to have something that if you just raise your hands, you'll get the effect. What's the purpose of raising the hands during the Twin Hearts meditation? Because where the hands are in alignment with, so in this case, they're in alignment with my heart, right? You have the center of my chest, my nipples, right? This is where the heart chakra is located, the insertion point of the heart chakra. It radiates outwards. It spins like this, like a flower, right? So when I raise my hands in this position, at this level, the heart chakra becomes activated. So I could do the same thing if I imagine my hands coming up to chest level, and it would activate my heart. But it requires more will, more awareness, more focus on this versus focusing on what? Being an instrument of goodwill and the will to do good. To plant another seed. Can you heal people without moving your hands? Right? In pranic healing 101, basic pranic healing, you're taught the person sitting in front of you or the person's at a distance later on in the class, and then you sweep their solar plexus chakra. You cleanse it, and then you energize it, right? And then it's done. Can you do that same thing without ever moving your hand? Yes, but it's more advanced. It requires more awareness, more will, and the contamination and you have to worry about contamination versus following the simple instructions that were given by the teacher, right? Sweep, 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 flick into the salt water, spray your hand, sweep, 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 flick into the salt water, spray your hand one more time, sweep, 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 flick into the water, spray your hand, you're done, and you energize for 3 breathing cycles, you stabilize the prana, and that's it. So it's a great question. It kind of opens the door for other awarenesses and other understanding, which is wonderful. And as you develop your clairvoyant abilities, you can see more of these things, right? You can see more of these things. You can look at advanced practitioners and you can go, aha, it looks like they're not doing anything. But in actuality, there's a whole symphony of energies being moved around. So for now and for the foreseeable future, I would recommend each and every person that's in an Inner Transformation membership, raise your hands in blessing physically versus raising your hands and blessing energetically later. Don't worry about it. Just raise your hands, right? It also makes you physically more conductive as well. Great question, though. It's a very good question. Can you cleanse, energize, and bless more than one person at a time? Say you are wanting to help a group of people or a couple, instead of doing each person individually, can you do them together? Yes, it requires more specialized training, more awareness, more understanding, and more, your energy body has to be bigger. So the question is, when we do healing on a person, we have one person in front of us. We cleanse them, we energize them, we stabilize the prana, we cut the cord, and then we go on to the next person, cleanse them, energize them, stabilize them, cut the cord. Can we do both of those people at the same time? Can we do 3 people at the same time, an entire family at the same time? Can we do a city at the same time? It depends. It depends on many factors. It depends on your level of awareness, your level of understanding, but primarily the size of your energy body. If you have a teeny tiny energy body that gets congested easily and you work on several people at one time, you're not going to be able to calibrate everyone's energy through the will and through awareness well enough to do the job, and you're going to get really, really congested, right? So going back to the example of the Twin Hearts meditation, blessing the planet is a practice that has been done for eons and eons and eons of time. It used to be done through blessing from the heart of the person to the planet. But that was for great, great teachers who were developed enough, who could handle that kind of energy going through the heart, purification, right? For us ordinary people, we bless with our hands because it gets modulated better. The prana is not so direct. So we activate the heart, and then energy flows here. And so the contamination from the earth, because as you're blessing, there's partial contamination. The contamination is here in the hands, and it pretty much gets filtered through the energy body versus using your heart to bless the earth directly, which really congests the heart. I don't recommend it. Okay. So for a very long time, I've asked the masters, how do you do group healing? How do you do group healing? Because that's what you're asking. How do you do group healing? And it was a guarded secret. Now, as with most secrets in pranic healing, they're hiding in plain sight. So if you go to the basic pranic healing book towards the back, it gives you what? Mass healing. But the spiritual core of the person doing the mass healing has to be big and has to be developed. So if you have a teeny tiny energy body, there's not much prana or divine energy or spiritual energy you're going to be able to provide to multiple people at one time. I remember when I first started practicing pranic healing, I would work on 1 or 2 people and I would be like tired. Number 1, I was using too much will. Number 2, I had too much impurities within my system. Number 3, my aura, my chakras weren't as big and conductive and receptive to divine energies. So I was getting depleted very, very quickly, right? So then as you go through the classes, which there are over 20, each class cleanses and purifies and refines your energy body. So then you can do more healings to more people faster. So one of the master pranic healers said recently that she could heal 6,000 people at one time, right? So that kind of answers the question, right? Can it be done? Yes, it can be done, but you have to have proper training. It's like, can anyone perform open heart surgery? Yes, anyone that has been properly trained, practiced, and has the physical and psychological capabilities can do it, right? So anybody can do group healings, heal multiple people at one time, but it requires us more training and more development of your energy body. Otherwise, you're going to get really depleted and really congested super quickly. Okay. And again, when you bless, like we bless the entire planet in Twin Hearts, blessing is cleansing and energizing simultaneously. but to actually do a protocol, like you have 3 people that have a migraine headache. Can you heal all 3 of them at the same time of the migraine headache? Yes, but it requires much more awareness and understanding than just blessing them. Make sense? Okay. Another good question. We're going through the questions quicker today. I'm not trying to get out the door. I am getting out the door, but we'll go through our questions appropriately. Next one. What should I do if I want to give up? What should I do if I want to give up on all this spiritual stuff? Give up on it and then get to it next lifetime. Right? Some people, I've heard this not from 1 or 2 people. I've heard this from many people who discover pranic healing and then the higher levels of our Hatha yoga. And they're like, you're telling me my spiritual practice can be 2, 3, 4 hours a day. I'm not going to dedicate 2, 3, 4 hours of every day of my life to my spiritual practice. It's like, I got other things to do. I got, I got a job, I got responsibilities. I got, I want to rest. I want to relax. I want to read. I want to watch a movie. I want to hang out with friends. Like, I can't spend my entire life meditating. True. So that being said, that person's not there yet, right? That person's not there yet. So if someone is learning how to exercise for the very first time, you don't give them the routine of an Olympian. Wouldn't make sense, would it? But if somebody is a regional champion, and then they want to become a state champion, and then they want to become a national champion, and then they want to go into the Olympics, you can give them that progression of like, all right, you're going to do this for 6 months or a year, then we're going to amp it up, then we're going to amp it up. So you have a structure for that person. But the person who's just kind of an enthusiast, you don't have to give them all that stuff. So people have these expectations that it's like, I want inner peace, I want happiness, I want joy, I want mental clarity, I want all of the benefits of a spiritual practice, or what they've been promised a spiritual practice offers them, right? But they don't want to do any of the work, and or their expectations are unrealistic. So they think, okay, I just have to meditate 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, and I'll be super, super advanced, and I'll have inner peace, I'll have inner joy, my life will be full of cupcakes and rainbows and kittens and puppies. And it's like, but that's not how it works. So does everybody have to dedicate 2, 3, 4 hours of their lives to very structured spiritual work? No. There's people that get their spiritual feeding from volunteering. They get their spiritual feeding from serving their family. They get their spiritual feeding from expanding their business, right? For the karma yogis out there. But for the person who just doesn't want to do their spiritual practice anymore, don't do it, right? Don't do it, because how do I put this? There's so many different directions to go with that question. You have to ask yourself the question, why are you doing your spiritual practice? Right? Why are you doing it? We talked about this in a previous video. Ajna chakra connected to the why, connected to the aim, connected to purpose, right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Okay, so I'm meditating to have inner peace. Okay, so do you have inner peace now? No. Okay, when you meditate, do you have inner peace? Yes. Okay, so then that should be motivation enough and a reason enough to continue doing your spiritual practice. But it's difficult. I don't want, well, anything worthwhile is difficult. Anything that you want to become good at is going to be difficult, right? Nobody has become an expert in any field in any time and space throughout human history where they didn't have to get out of their comfort zone and they didn't have to step up, right? Nowhere. So a saint doesn't become a saint by accident. A saint doesn't fall into sainthood. A saint has a tremendous amount of trials and tribulations and in overcoming weaknesses and climbing many, many mountains and moving many, many mountains before they are a saint, right? So everyone wants what a saint is, right? Oneness with God. But how many people are ready, willing, and able to do what a saint did to get to that point? Everybody wants the $100 million paycheck, right? What was the boxer? I can't for the life of me remember his name. He fought a UFC fighter. I follow more of UFC than I do boxing, but basically the payday was about $100 million. And everyone would be like, man, what I wouldn't do with $100 million. And it's like, but did you dedicate basically 25 years, 6 days a week, hours and hours and hours every single day to getting to the level to acquire that $100 million payday, right? So you don't have to do your spiritual practices. You can quit them entirely for this incarnation, but you will pick them up again the next incarnation. Why? Because we're always moving closer to God, right? We're always going back to oneness. What is different, where the free will comes into place, is how quickly we go back to oneness. Right? So you could spend the rest of this incarnation living a hedonistic lifestyle, do no character building, do no spiritual practice, do what you want, when you want, how you want, regardless of how it affects others around you, right? And then you'll have lots and lots and lots and lots of suffering that will be coming into your awareness. And then you'll take that karma with you in your next incarnation, and you'll have to work through that, which is what we're doing right now. So the suffering that you're experiencing in this incarnation is from the previous seeds you planted last incarnations, right? So if you're having money problems in this incarnation, it's from the seeds you planted in previous incarnations. If you're ever having relationship problems in this incarnation, it's from the seeds you planted in previous incarnations. So you're already demonstrating that you're experiencing suffering from the stuff that you didn't resolve earlier. So now, at least you have the awareness in this lifetime, wow, I'm a spiritual being. I'm on the spiritual path. I don't want to continue to suffer, and I want to have compassion to my future self. What can I do now to not plant bad seeds and plant better seeds moving forward, so I have less suffering, more bliss, more oneness with God, oneness with all in the future? Okay, let me sit down and do my practice. And also the other thing is, in general, you get the benefits of your spiritual practice almost immediately, right? You're feeling stressed, you sit down, you do twin hearts, 20 minutes later, how do you feel? Better, right? So that's immediate, but there are also long-term cumulative benefits for the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and your spiritual body when you leave the physical vehicle. So there's a lot of benefits. And again, what's the spiritual path? We defined this before, but it is helpful to mention it again. The spiritual path is a yearning for oneness. So how do you know you're on the spiritual path? You yearn for oneness. You yearn for oneness. I want to be one with God, one with all. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but there's something within me that wants to expand, that wants to become familiar with who and what I am, which is the soul, which is the divine nature. So that's the spiritual path. Some people that have zero interest in meditating, they can be developed, spiritually developed through character building in previous incarnations and this lifetime. But if they're not wanting to meditate, they're not wanting to meditate. As one of the masters recently said in a live stream, the teacher cannot do the homework of the student. So we all have homework in our lifetimes, and we all have tests. Some of them are pop quizzes, some of them are major tests. We all have tests in our lifetime that we can choose to take and pass, or we can choose to fail, or we can choose to not take, but eventually have to take. That's where the free will kicks in. But we'll all have to go through it no matter what. So what should you do if you just want to give up on the spiritual stuff? Then quit, right? Live a good life, live a comfortable life. Master Choa says, not everyone has to be a millionaire, but everyone has to have a target, right? Not everyone has to be super, super prosperous, or not everyone has to be a billionaire. Not everyone has to have Lamborghinis, exotic cars, yachts, millions and millions of dollars in their bank account, a 25,000 square foot mansion on the beach, right? To be happy. Not everyone needs those things, right? So you also don't have to meditate if you don't want to. I'd recommend it. That's the premise of this membership group, right? Is transformation. So I would recommend it, but you don't have to do it. Life will guide you. Remember, Master Choa says you can either be taught by the compassion of the teacher or the severity of the lords of karma, right? Most people get onto the spiritual path when they're at rock bottom. True or not true? Right? Most people get onto the spiritual path when life is falling apart. But if their life is normal, or they have prosperity that they can kind of soften any blows that come on the world, right? They have money, they can take care of their physical health. If they have money, they can do things that take care of their emotional bodies, right? They can feel good temporarily. If they have money, they can do mental things of like, okay, I'm just going to take a week off, a month off. I'm just going to travel. I'm going to, distract myself with other things. But if you don't have those resources, the you searching for truth comes up faster. True or not true? I mentioned this before. There's a pranic healing instructor in California who was teaching pranic healing in Orange County, and he has been leading a Twin Hearts meditation there for 20 years. And I was talking to him about, I was leading a Twin Hearts meditation at the Four Seasons in Denver, Colorado for about a year and a half. And I said, how come this group is not expanding? I don't understand it. It's these people have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, and they don't make every single Twin Hearts meditation. But when they come, they have a great experience. Why don't they keep coming back? Why don't they tell more people? Why isn't this growing? What is happening? He goes, I've had the same experience, and I've been leading it here in Orange County for 20 years, which is one of the most prosperous zip codes in the entire United States. He goes, because when people have prosperity, they're content in general. They're not looking for more. But when your life is falling apart around you and you don't have the resources to help with that part of your life, you're like desperate to find a solution. And in that desperation, you build humility, you build conductivity and receptivity to spirituality. And then guess what? Spirituality shows up. That's not to say that people that are prosperous don't have tough times, not to say that people who are prosperous don't hit rock bottom, but in general, people get onto the spiritual path when they've hit rock bottom. In my particular case, I grew up in a very traumatized family dynamic. I wasn't necessarily looking to escape. I was looking to, I was attracted to subtle things at a very young age. I was sensitive to energy, and I wanted to understand energy more. And then that's what brought me onto the spiritual path. And then the feedback I got was immediate, like, wow, when I do my spiritual practice, the physical and emotional pains I'm experiencing go away. I'm going to keep doing these things. And then I hit rock bottom. And then I went deeper into my spiritual practice, and then hit rock bottom and went deeper into my spiritual practice. I was noticing a theme. And thankfully, that's changed over the years, right? It's about going up and then going through the tunnel, and then going up again, and then going through another tunnel, instead of going up and having the bottom fall out and starting over again, and then going up and having another bottom fall out, start over again. So as Grandmaster Choa Koksui would say, it's an upward spiral, which is talked about during the Wesak Festival at the end of April or beginning of May by the Pranic Healing Masters. They give a talk in the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism and the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. And in that, talk about law of cycle, law of change, law of consequence. Okay? Planting a seed, which is the most powerful time. For those of you that have not done a Wesak before, the Wesak Festival is the most powerful day of the entire year to meditate. It's at the peak of the full moon of Taurus, which is either at the end of April or the beginning of May. You'd have to see the calendar of your of the particular year you're doing the Wesak. Master Choa did lots of work to discover pranic healing and how it could help various physical, emotional, and other areas. Current masters and healers are continuing that work, but are any of the masters working on new achievements, new discoveries to move pranic healing forward as time goes on? Excellent question. Yes, so Grandmaster Choa Koksui wrote 20 different books about pranic healing and Arhatic yoga and how to use healing to heal your health, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual growth and development, your home, your office, society as a whole. And at the end of the Advanced Pranic Healing book, Grandmaster Choa Koksui has seed ideas. So if you haven't read the Advanced Pranic Healing book, which is the third book that Grandmaster Choa Koksui wrote, he wrote Basic Pranic Healing or Miracles Through Pranic Healing. Then he wrote Pranic Psychotherapy. And then he wrote Advanced Pranic Healing, which took him 5 years and almost killed him because of the intensity of the work that was required and the intensity of the energies that he was using to validate the technique, right? Which is connected to sacrificial love. So at the end of the Advanced Pranic Healing book, he talks about seed ideas that certain people, I'm sure, I can't verify this exactly. I have a pretty good idea that certain people throughout the world of pranic healing have been assigned to work on certain things, like work on this seed idea, you work on this seed idea, you work on this seed idea. And it's even up to the people who read the books. You could just be a basic pranic healing graduate, or you could be fumbling around in a library or a bookstore and pick up the Advanced Pranic Healing book because that's part of your dharma to do something with pranic healing. And you read the end of the book and you're like, huh, that seed idea. My background, my training, my life experience could actually bring that seed into fruition. I'm going to do something about it. And you don't have to be a master pranic healer, an advanced practitioner, a super advanced yogi. That could be your dharma, right? I didn't plan on being a full-time healer and dedicating my life to Grandmaster Choa Koksui's work. But here we are, 18 years later, right? So, and I mean, I was teaching the Twin Hearts meditation like a month after I learned about the meditation. I was already out there promoting it to people to teach. I wasn't a basic pranic healing graduate. I wasn't an instructor. I wasn't a Arhatic yogi. I was just someone who wanted to share these teachings with other people. And I did. And obviously it's been beneficial for lots of people. So for instance, Master Glenn, who is a retired 40-year neonatologist, one of the top neonatologists in the entire United States. He was, by his peers in Newsweek magazine in 1991, the top neonatologist in the United States. Like, he's got a resume that in this lifetime, I will never even come close to of what he's been able to accomplish. But because he's in the medical community and because he loves education so much, several seed ideas around that, he's been a big proponent of. So for instance, super brain yoga was something that Grandmaster Choa Koksui wanted to be integrated into the school system and to be validated by science. So Dr. Glenn Mendoza, Master Glenn, was one of the people behind that project of getting super brain yoga into the public school system and then validating it through scientific means. So that is a seed. It was actually a whole system, but the seed of getting it out there. And there are other things that masters are working on. So right now, outside of Master Glenn working on the educational part, I think the masters are working on propagating pranic healing as it's already been established. So some of them may be working on seed ideas and may be working on more advanced technologies. And as Grandmaster Choa Koksui would say, pranic truth is dynamic and pranic healing is dynamic. So yes, we have set protocols that are in the books, like, okay, you have a migraine headache, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We usually don't deviate from that at all. But in the upcoming generations, there will be students that will be very, very advanced that can look at these protocols and approve upon them, if I dare say that, approve upon them, because what the masters do for healing are the higher levels of pranic healing that the ordinary pranic healing practitioner is not practicing, but they're all practicing pranic healing, right? Like, for instance, in basic pranic healing, you're taught leave the main chakra alone because it raises blood pressure. A person could faint if you work on it improperly. But then in the higher classes of pranic healing, you work with the main chakra. So it's levels of truth. So people who are studying basic, advanced pranic psychotherapy, etc., they have a certain level of truth. But as they continue to grow, spiritually evolve, take more classes, do more healings, and their higher intuition is developing, other things will be obvious. It's like, okay, the protocol says do this, this, and this, and then I'm also knowing to do this. But it's not in the book. It's not in the protocol. In general, for everyone listening, when you do, if you're getting intuition to do X, Y, and Z, it's recommended do the entire protocol, step 1 to step whatever, 15 or 20, right? Then use your higher intuition to make any adjustments in the chakras, the aura, etc. But do the whole protocol as it's been taught in its entirety, in the power that's there, and then you can use your intuition to change, not change, to enhance the protocol. Make sense? Again, I don't want to distort the teachings. Master's teachings are master's teachings, purity of the teachings. That's why he has the books. That's why he has the CDs. So that's why we recommend following the books, following the CDs. But at the same time, truth is dynamic and pranic healing is dynamic. That's why we have paradoxical truth. Good question. What are better questions I ask my what are better questions I can ask my subconscious mind? So I had a client who's worked with NLP, who's worked with a world famous hypnotherapist in England about dealing with the subconscious mind. But as with anything, just because you've studied something doesn't mean you practice it, doesn't mean you master it. Just because you attended a class doesn't make you a practitioner. It makes you a graduate of that class, right? Like one of the masters says, there's a big difference between a Arhatic Yoga graduate and Arhatic Yoga practitioner. So this particular person knows about the subconscious mind, but in his language patterns, he's doing the opposite. So how can we better access our subconscious mind for moving our lives forward, right? How can we use our subconscious mind to transform ourselves? Very simple. Ask the question we want the answer to versus the opposite, versus the negative of that. So instead of saying, why aren't I more successful in my life? Because then your subconscious mind will provide the conscious mind with all the answers. Well, the reason you're not more successful in life is because you're too short, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too smart, you're too arrogant, you're too ignorant, you're too stupid, you're too whatever. These are all the reasons why you're not successful. Versus asking your subconscious mind, how can I be more successful? How can I bring in more clients? How can I heal more people? How can I transform my life faster, but gently? Right? How can I evolve without suffering? How can I evolve pleasantly, peacefully, joyfully? So whatever whatever the conscious mind is asking the subconscious mind will provide the conscious mind with that answer. So if it's in a negative way, the subconscious mind will provide all the negative answers. Make sense? So why can't I find the right partner? Why can't I find my soulmate? Why doesn't anybody love me? Okay. Your conscious mind asks the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind goes, here are all your answers. We'll give you more answers than you know what to do with. Right? So you can't move forward. How can I move forward? How can I overcome this tendency? How can I feel more love, more compassion, more joy for myself and others? Right? Let's say you have enviousness or jealousy. So instead of saying, why am I so envious or why am I so jealous, which on the conscious rational mind could be helpful if you're trying to extract it out. But the subconscious mind is going to overwhelm you with all the answers. Why am I so jealous? These are all the 20 reasons why you're so jealous. Why am I so envious? These are all, right? Versus, how can I be content with myself? How can I be comfortable in my own shoes? Christian, is that literal or metaphorical? Right? The subconscious mind is huge. Huge. I'll say that again. The subconscious mind is huge. There's a lot in there. And when we go in and we start tinkering with it, as I understand it from one of the masters, we don't start working with, we as healers don't start healing the subconscious mind of other people until level 5 energies are passing through us, right? So we have our Hatha Yoga, preparatory level, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. At level 5, we are bringing down and working with certain energies that are helpful for a person's subconscious mind. Prior to that, it's recommended not to work on the subconscious mind of other people. Okay? But when we are working with ourselves, we can practice that technique. So instead of asking the negative, why do I always screw up? Why doesn't anyone like me? Right? We can ask more positive. How can I get people to like me? How can I like myself more often? How can I love myself? How can I care for myself? What would it feel like to feel bliss? How can I feel bliss more often in my life? Right? So that's how you ask better questions to the subconscious mind. Next question. If you are healing another person, is it helpful to play ohms, a mantra, or meditation to help with the healing process? If so, what do you recommend? That's a good question. It depends. So for those of you who've done any healings with me, whether face-to-face or distantly, but Christian, pranic healing is no touch. Isn't it always distant? You know what I'm saying? We have an hour-long session. 30 minutes of it is coaching and understanding why we're stuck and realizing how to get unstuck. And then we do healing around that stuckiness. During the 30 minutes of the healing, I play the mantra. Typically, we'll play the mantra Om. Right? Grandmaster Choa Kokusui has a mantra Om for cleansing and purification. There's other mantras for other purposes, right? So I would play that in general. And then at the end of that 30-minute healing session, to know the person we're shifting out of the healing, coming back into our bodies, then I would play the Om Mahalakshmi mantra, the mantra of prosperity, abundance, success, and grounding, right? Because when we get healing, we tend to be really spacey and out of our bodies. So we want people to come back into their bodies to be practical. So we play that mantra. But there are other mantras for other purposes, right? So let's say the person is having a hard time developing their will, or they need more will to get a hold of their emotional body, physical body, what have you. So we would play Om Namah Shivaya during the healing, right? And then we would play Om Mahalakshmi mantra at the end to bring them back down. Now, what about doing a meditation, right? So someone does healing, and we go, okay, well, we can play the mantra, or we can have you do a meditation. I typically don't give people a meditation to do. There's certain reasons that I would have someone do a meditation during a healing. It depends. It's a case by case. But in general, people are there to what? Let go and quote unquote not have something to do. Like, I thought you were going to heal me and now I'm having to do this meditation, right? So in general, I just let people sit, listen to the mantra, and then do healing versus sit and all right, now you have to do a dynamic meditation. But again, it's a case by case. Some people, I go, all right, you're going to do the forgiveness meditation and we're going to do healing on you. Right? And the results have been very, very good with that. But I don't do that all the time. So it really depends. So you have to kind of understand the person, understand their situation, understand the tools, how those tools affect that person, and then use your intuition to make the right choice. Right? And if you've invoked before the healing, as we say, you'll be divinely guided. And if something goes, if your recommendation isn't the best, then you could say it was the divinely guided mistake. Okay, so in general, Om, and then Om Maha, the Om Mahalakshmi mantra at the end for a couple minutes. Does everyone on the spiritual path purge all the time? So this is going to sound kind of funny, and I've had this come into my awareness over the years. So I started my spiritual path at the age of 19 with the TM, Transcendental Meditation, and I was religious about it. Practiced it in the morning, practiced in the evening, loved it, had great experiences, great stillness. I had tremendous physical healing. My heart healed a lot. The first 6 months of practicing the TM technique, my heart was a tremendous amount of pain was coming out of my front heart. But because I'm determined to do my spiritual practice, I'm like, whatever. But I was like, why does it feel like knives are coming out of my heart? But I didn't know anything about the chakras then, the aura, calcified energies, trauma. I didn't know anything. I was just like, all right, well, there's this meditation technique that I've been taught. And when I do it, I feel really still inside and I feel really peaceful. But at the same time, I'm observing I have a tremendous amount of pain in my front heart. Well, I'll just keep doing it. And I'm trying to remember if I ever asked anybody within the TM movement about that, because it was pretty prevalent most of my meditation sessions. But again, within that 6-month time period, I went from a resting heart rate of 125 beats a minute to 72 beats a minute, because what was happening is part of my trauma was being released through the meditation and my body was able to heal itself. So I became a quote unquote believer. It's really weird when we talk about that in the spiritual sense. It's like if you injured yourself, right? If you injured yourself physically and they said, okay, this is going to take 6 weeks to heal, and then you take a physical thing, a supplement, you get a procedure and it heals your body faster. People are okay with that person being excited and what have you because it's validated that way. But then you use a spiritual tool that heals your physical body and people just go, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, do you understand? My heart was doing this prior, my heart is doing this now, and the only thing that has changed is I'm doing a spiritual practice. They can't make the connection of the validity of the technique to how it's affecting the physical body. Very strange to me. So I've been on the spiritual path for 22 years, and I've surrounded myself with spiritual people within spiritual communities pretty much for that 22 years, whether it be the TM movement, whether it be shamanic healers, whether it be energy healers from other schools, whether it be pranic healers and rahatic yogis. But at this point, and being a professional healer for so many years, at this point, I just think everyone's purging all the time because that's what I see. It's almost like if you're an ER doctor, it's like if you're an ER doctor, you're like, everyone must be having heart attacks, getting gunshots, or getting stabbed. Like, because it conditions your mind, because you're always around the worst of the worst, in the sense of like, people need you, life or death, they need you. And what are the things that bring people to life or death? Heart attacks, stabbings, and gunshots, right? So you're like, is that all that's happening outside this hospital? It must be complete and utter chaos and anarchy. So you kind of have your lens changes. So at this point in my life, it's like people around me are always purging. And so I don't know, to be honest, I don't know if there is a group of people, ordinary people, as it were, that just live ordinary lives, that aren't flipping out or purging or whatever. Because even the people that I've seen that are quote unquote normal, when I meet them, then somebody, I'm not going to name names, introduces them to the spiritual path, maybe through a healing, maybe through a video, maybe a full moon meditation. And then a month or two later, that once ordinary, normal, non-purging person becomes nutty. So I'm going, well, did I just catch them at that time? When I saw them, they weren't in their purge period, and now they're just in their purge period. So to be honest, I've spent more than half of my life as a spiritual practitioner, as a meditator. So I'm wondering, is everyone purging all the time? I don't know many people who aren't going through huge swings in their finances, and huge swings in their emotions, and huge swings and not having clarity in life of where they want to go in their career, or feeling lost, or thinking that they're here for greater things. Like, everyone who is in my circle of influence talks about spirituality. Even people who aren't spiritual are talking about spiritual things. So I don't know. To me, everyone's purging all the time. That's been my life experience. I would love to meet people who have a level of normalcy in their lives. But that's kind of the dynamic of the spiritual path. Once a person consciously steps onto the path, more energy is introduced into their system from their higher soul, and that is an accelerant to what's inside of them. So if they have stress, it gets accelerated and magnified. If they have anger, accelerated, magnified. If they have fear, accelerated, magnified. If they have negative pride, accelerated and magnified. So yeah, to me, it seems like it's almost like if you were brought up in, it's like if you were brought up in a sect of people. Like, I only spend time with the military, like army brats, and then they ever, like, their friends and family members all are in the military, and then they go into the military, and all they hang out is, so that's their worldview, is like through the lens of military or the medical, right? My parents were doctors, and then several friends, all of their friends were doctors, and then I got old enough and I went to med school, and so the filter you perceive the world is through the medical community. So or people that have been traumatized, right? Trauma through an addiction, trauma through abuse. So then you start socializing and spending time with people that are traumatized and abused. And so you're like, is everyone being traumatized and abused all the time? Right? Because that's all you know. So relating it to my worldview as a spiritual practitioner, I would hope my viewpoint is a little bit higher and broader and deeper, because that's part of what being a spiritual practitioner is. So I'm doing my best to not just see the purging disciples around me, but also to see, like, we're all in the process of growing, evolving. And even if you're not a spiritual person, you can still be purging. And even if you're a spiritual person, you can have an ordinary day. I'm still waiting on that. Because I don't know. Like, everyone who contacts me, because I'm a healer, right? So people are contacting me, even subconsciously contacting me when they need healing, when something major is falling apart in their life. There was somebody that I dated. I will not name names, but there's somebody that I dated that every week it was like a major family crisis. And I go, this is not possible. This is not ordinary. And I go, is this because this person is a spiritual practitioner and that's why all this stuff is going down? Or is this ordinary people? Or is this hyper dysfunctional people? Like what's happening here? But I couldn't believe it, of how many life and family crises could happen in a month's time. And then the following week, and then a week after that, I couldn't keep up with it. It was very, very bizarre. So then I looked at my own life and I go, yeah, that 3 years of my life in New York and New Jersey, that was extremely, like, people would look at that and go, that's not a spiritual practitioner. That's not a yogi. That is a insane person, right? If people saw me objectively, not having the backstory, not having understanding of spiritual teachings and spiritual truths, they would look at me and they go, that person's crazy, right? Needs to be locked up in a mental institution. So does everyone on the spiritual path purge all the time? I'm inclined to say yes, but I will also add to it, as you grow and advance in your practice, you can then start purging tremendously, but have it together. When the ajna is strong, it controls and regulates the purge, right? So when your ajna is connected to your higher soul, it regulates what's happening, because a purge is basically you're releasing disease congested energies faster than you can comfortably calibrate within your system. It's like going to the bathroom normally versus having diarrhea, right? You get the difference? So it's like, there's nothing wrong with, everyone goes to the bathroom, right? Everyone's releasing disease congested negative energies. But if you had diarrhea all day long for weeks on end, that's a problem, right? Or conversely, if you had constipation all the time, that's a problem. So it's about finding the balance of spiritually growing and evolving, and then having your stuff come to the surface, negative thoughts, negative emotions, traumas, negative tendencies, limiting beliefs, blind spots coming to the surface, and dealing with them in a proper, rapid, and gentle way, versus they're coming to the surface super, super fast, and you have no awareness and no understanding, and they overtake you, and then your life goes down the drain temporarily. So if anyone knows ordinary people or spiritual people that are ordinary in their day-to-day lives, that there isn't some major calamity every other week, please give them my contact info. I would love to interview them. There's actually a lot that can be said about that whole thing. Next question. Is it good to have a chakra healing before you go into Incan shamanic protection and ancestral healing rituals? My chakras are blocked from trauma, but I'm also being ravaged by the wounds of my ancestors. But I feel, since I have been working on my own inner healing for a while, that maybe it's time to do ancestral healing. Okay, so healing all the time for all things. Let's leave it at that, right? So you need healing, your ancestral line needs healing, the world needs healing, the cosmos needs healing. Everyone needs healing, because what's healing? Removing any and all blockages, obstacles, and impediments to experiencing oneness with God, oneness with all. So we all need healing, no matter who you are, what you are. Master Choa still got healing when he was in the body. Hello? The teacher still got healing, right? So we all need healing. Now, I think it's interesting. My chakras are blocked from trauma, but I'm also being ravaged by the wounds of my ancestors. ravaged by the wounds of your ancestors is a pretty intense statement. I would challenge the person's awareness, because you need to have so much awareness of what's happening in your ancestral line that you yourself would be super advanced, right? Like if you can connect to the wounds that are ravaging your current incarnation, it shouldn't be ravaging it anymore, because you have so much awareness and understanding and have done so much inner work around it that you're healed, that you can objectively go to your lineage and look at it, right? Because a good clairvoyant, a high level clairvoyant, is somebody who can objectively look at something without merging and entangling themselves with it. Because the inner world, we have the assumption that it's rainbows, kittens, unicorns, unicorn kittens, right? We think everything is so beautiful and bright in the inner world, and that's not necessarily true. Like everything is symmetrical and radiant and glowing and one, that's not accurate. There are some terrifying things in the inner world, right? Even me saying that, even me saying what the word I just said brought something into the inner world to look at that wasn't pleasant, right? So if this person is being ravaged by the wounds of their ancestral line, that means they don't have control here. So you have to be objective here. You have to be controlled here, right? Everything is within. And then when you go back to your ancestral line, you're like, oh, okay, there's that abuse, that murder, that rape, that this, that, okay, got it. All right, that was a lot of suffering there. You're not entangling yourself with it. You're having compassion, you're having forgiveness, you're having understanding. You're like, oh, okay, I get it, okay, right? So the person's asking, should I get chakra healing before I do the ancestral work, or should I do the ancestral work and then do the chakra healing? Heal yourself first. Heal yourself first. I mean, I would recommend both, right? Heal yourself and also heal your family line. And in pranic healing, we call it generational healing. It's a whole practice on removing many different patterns within the family tree, which generates a lot of good karma for the person and cleans the energy line of everyone, and then people can incarnate into higher bodies and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the cleaner you are, the better your experience will be with anything. Next question. What is discernment? What is discernment? So discernment means to judge something correctly. And it is connected to the virtue accurate perception and correct expression. Accurate perception and correct expression, which is connected to the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. The first step is right viewpoint, seeing something clearly, seeing something as it is. And then steps 2 through 8 of the Eightfold Path is correct expression. So if your perception is wrong, your expression will be wrong. And I always give the analogy of, in the 1400s, we thought the earth was flat. That was our perception. And our perception was, if we got into a boat and we went to a certain part, we're going to fall off the edge of the earth and die. So that thought, that viewpoint, perception, determined what we thought, what we spoke, how we spoke, what our actions were, what our livelihood was, what our spiritual practices were, etc. Right? So right viewpoint is very, very important. So if you don't have proper discernment, you'll be deceived, and you'll lose time, money, resources. You'll be taken advantage of. You'll get off your spiritual path, right? Negative pride is connected to lack of discernment. Pride cometh before the fall. So even a high level saint, a senior arhat, can fall due to pride. It's the last weakness to go before you become a holy master. So discernment, which requires you to first have your emotional body, calm, and then you objectively look at something. So as soon as you start getting emotionally worked up about something, ta-da, you're no longer practicing discernment. You're no longer seeing something clearly. So look at all the political stuff that is going on throughout the world right now. It's always been going on, but it's having a flaring up moment in history. So people are flared up emotionally, therefore their discernment, their judgment is clouded. So they can't see something clearly, right? COVID, same thing. So people are emotionally worked up about something, they can't see it clearly. So one thing is humility, recognizing that you have strengths, you have weaknesses, you don't know all the answers. There's something to learn from this person or from the situation. What can I learn? What am I not seeing that I need to see to make a better to make a better judgment call to move forward? So it's a very difficult virtue to develop, but it starts with your emotional body. So when we clean the solar plexus, when we do our meditation practices, we have a clean aura, clean chakras, that improves our discernment because you're perceiving things through a clean energy body, right? Instead of, what's the term, rose-colored glasses. So the rose-colored glasses are the filters that are in place. So for instance, if you talk to someone who's brought up in a communistic country, who is for communism, what kind of filters do they have, right? Then if you talk to somebody who was brought up in a capitalistic country, who made millions of dollars through capitalism, and you talk to them about communism, what are they going to say? They both have their viewpoints, they both have their perceptions. And basically when you bring them together and look at that from different levels of truth, you go, aha, I see your point of view and why you think that way, and I see your point of view and think that, and why you think that way, and it makes sense. So nobody's wrong or right. It's about understanding. Because if you understand why a person has their viewpoint, you go, well, that makes perfect sense why you have that viewpoint, right? I always wondered why women have the viewpoint that men are dangerous. Because I've never met any men that would harm women, or in fact, most of the men I know would protect and or have protected women. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's my viewpoint. That's my perception, right? But then you talk to somebody who is sexually molested, abused, raped as a child by men. What's her viewpoint going to be when she becomes a teenager, a young adult, an adult? And you're like, oh, that's why you're afraid of men. That's why you're traumatized by men. It's not my viewpoint is right or wrong, or her viewpoint is right or wrong. It's you're understanding why the person has the viewpoint, right? You're understanding why the person has the viewpoint. And then through proper understanding, you can have discernment and you can go, okay, I see the truth in that statement and the truth in that statement. And you want to be in alignment with as much truth as possible to move forward. You can't have all the truth because we're not omniscient like God, all knowing. We're not there yet, but we can do our best through the mental body, through our higher intuition, by keeping a clean energy body. But developing discernment is very, very difficult. And as Master Choa says, for those who do not practice discernment, the karma of that is to be fooled. So what are the tools that we have in pranic healing for discernment? Scanning, right? Scanning, feeling the energy, looking at the energy, listening to the energy. Those are some of the tools we have in pranic healing, the higher faculties. So you're like, should I take job A, job B, or job C? All right, well, let's see. Prosperity energy of job A is teeny tiny. Job B, it's huge. And job C, average. Okay, so I've practiced discernment using energy. Now, let me contact somebody, another healer, another clairvoyant, somebody who knows my business, knows my industry, and let me get their feedback. So you're getting feedback from different places to practice discernment versus option A, option B, option C. I don't know. Let's do option A just because. So you're not practicing discernment. You take option A and it leads you down a dark path of suffering. And then that's your karma because you didn't practice discernment. So for instance, I've been traveling for 6 months and this whole time I've been practicing discernment of looking at the Airbnbs, the location, the energy, the direction of the I've done everything that I know to do, scanned, worked with my mentor to find the right places to do my work, to have fun, et cetera, et cetera. And so far, I want to say with the exception of one, but that's not entirely accurate because there are other levels of truth to it. But basically the entire 6 months has been wonderful. It's been great because of practicing discernment versus I have all the Airbnbs and locations and I on a board and I just take a dart, throw it. That's not practicing discernment. True or not true? Okay. So probably if I did that method, I would have suffered a lot because the opportunity to suffer while you're traveling is pretty good. There's a big opportunity to suffer. Okay. Next question. Last question. It's a big one. I just got the courage to break up with my boyfriend of 4 years. Since my awakening, we have just been on different wavelengths and it's heartbreaking. I've been stringing him along for a long time because I didn't want to hurt him and lose him from my life. But I know I have to stay true to myself and do the right thing for him and me. I sure could use some encouraging words, please. I'm shaking all over and so sad. So I'm kind of looking at the energy, a little bit of the message from this person. And do you think she was making the statement that she didn't want to hurt him, right? So do you think stringing somebody along for a long time, as it says, is hurting someone? Yes. So hurt was already being done. This person's looking for validation and making the right decision. So there's lack of trust, right? Lack of trust in her own decision making. There's a feeling of guilt and shame. Because there's not really a specific question to this, but I saw it and I was like, I think it would be beneficial for the group to kind of like use it as a case study to pull some things out. But yeah, so when you have one partner on the spiritual path, right, yearning for oneness, increasing their vibration, and you have one partner who's not on the spiritual path, over time, the gap widens of vibration. That's the gap that's widening. It's the vibration between the two people. So they're no longer vibrating on the same wavelengths. Have you ever noticed when you got onto the spiritual path and started doing spiritual work, your friend dynamic changed? You lost a lot of friends and then you brought in new friends, new interactions. That's because the vibration is changing. Now, this can happen to anybody, not just people who start meditating, but people who have a dramatic shift in their energy body. Same thing with trauma. Trauma vibrates at a certain level. So if you remove the trauma from the person heals, they vibrate differently and they stop attracting traumatic people and traumatic circumstances into their lives. So courage is a function of the solar plexus, right? She said she had the courage to break up with her boyfriend of 4 years. Since my awakening, I don't know what the awakening means. And a true awakening would be a huge downpour from the higher soul that's mostly integrated into the bodies, and the person's personality is soul infused. They're different. That would be an example of being born again. You can be born again multiple times in one lifetime. Born again is simply the higher soul coming down and upgrading the bodies, and then more higher soul coming down and upgrading the bodies even more. So each time is being born again, being born again. But there are people who don't have access to the higher soul to that degree in a lifetime, and they just live ordinary lives. So there's not a lot of downpour of energy. So their lives are pretty consistent, right? They're just like ho hum lifetimes. I've been stringing him along. Stringing him along is there's a level of manipulation and maliciousness with that, with the energy of that, stringing somebody along, meaning intentionally doing it. Because I didn't want to hurt him or lose him from my life. It was more, I didn't want to lose him from my life. This person was stringing that person along because she wanted to keep him in his life for her own purposes. I'm not sensing that this is about his benefit. But I know I have to stay true to myself and do the right thing, which would imply that the person knows who and what they are, right? Because if you don't know who and what you are, you can't stay true to that. Make sense? If you don't have good, healthy boundaries that have been enforced over a prolonged period of time, that you've been able to trust your intuition. So do you see how there's a lot of premature things going on, assumptions, guilt, need for validation, shame? This person has not fully processed. So actually, the energy seems to be better on the boyfriend. So it's almost like the boyfriend is lucky to not be in the relationship with this particular person. And again, I'm just connecting to the energy of what I'm seeing. Could be wrong. I'm open to see if that's the case or not. But I think the boyfriend is the lucky person in this respect. But to end a 4-year relationship because you had a spiritual awakening that you're in the process of metabolizing, it doesn't make sense. Right? It doesn't make sense. And it's under the guise of I'm doing what's best for him. But I think it's more, I don't want to deal with working through this with this person. So anyways, ending it on a high note for sure. I hope this was helpful to each and every one of you. Today's transformation Q&A on Friday. And bit sad, not gonna lie, bit sad about my last day here in Honolulu. But my plan is to make my decision within the next month. So I'm going to be in San Juan. I'm going to be traveling throughout Puerto Rico, but I'll be primarily in San Juan. And I will make my decision within the next month or so if I'm going to be living there for the next foreseeable future, or I'm going to be coming back to Honolulu. So this isn't goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for at least the next 2 months. But I will miss this area. It has grown on me faster than any other area that I've been traveling to. The area I least attracted to, Phoenix. Very strange city, strange energy, and super hot. It was 100, at one point it was 117 degrees. And then when I was accidentally walking on the pavement with just my feet, no socks, no shoes, no sandals, no nothing, to take out the garbage, I accidentally stepped on the asphalt and got some kind of burn on my foot. Did healing, it went away immediately, but I checked the temperature of what asphalt was that day in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was 175 degrees Fahrenheit. 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Unbelievable. I didn't know human beings could live in 110, 115 degree weather for weeks on end. I didn't know it was possible. And now I realize it is. in the United States, of all places. So we'll be uploading this later today. Any questions, let me know. Lots of love to each and every one of you. And then we'll be doing our Twin Hearts meditation lecture and healing earlier because I'll be traveling on Saturday and Sunday. So my body will be tired and it'll be 6-hour time zone difference. So, you know, the squirreliness that goes with that. So we'll just have it preloaded for you guys, and any questions about it, let me know. All right, let us close. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of them together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Koksui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Meiling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Lord Ganesh, to Sarasvati, to Holy Master Count Saint Germain, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing ministers, to our divine selves or higher souls, we thank you, thank you, thank you, all for your great, great blessings, for your soothing, healing energies. Thank you for helping us become better people and better souls. With gratitude, respect, and love, so be it. Thank you. All right, guys, I will talk to you on the Flippity McFlipperson. Have an amazing, phenomenal day. And this is Christian Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma, namaste. Bye-bye.